Hello and welcome to another review. Today we're going to take a look at the 10 cards from Holy Knight. All the cards are going to be released in Ghosts in the Past and the new card ciel in Lightning Overdrive that is going to be released a little bit later. And speaking of Lightning Overdrive, the reason why I decided to delay the Security Force review, even though those two kind of like came in tie, is because of the fact that Security Force might going to get another set of cards in Lightning Overdrive. So I decided, you know what, we'll wait for it, we'll see when they'll come out, and then I'll be able to give you a full review. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This archetype is really cool. It's very good for beginners, as I'm going to also probably mention it in the future parts of this video. And I'm going to remind you the normal subscriber thing if you want to help the channel and see more videos like this. But without further ado, let's jump right on into the, well, Holy Knight archetype. Alright, so to start things off, the Holy Knight archetype, we're going to start off with their boss monster, Radiant Seiyaryu, or should I say the monster they are mostly resolve around. And Radiant Seiyaryu is the retrain of the old Seiyaryu used by Teia, the pink dragon that used by her in the Capsule Monsters Yu-Gi-Oh series. And this is pretty much the retrain of it, only just right now looks like the weird cousin of Blue Eyes with this color scheme. Even though I really like this artwork, I do think like it should have been white because it really looks similar to Blue Eyes. But I guess that's the entire point. Point is, Seiyaryu has the same stats, same levels, same everything, but now he has an effect. And I'm going to say this before we'll jump right into the effect to let you understand, all of the Holy Knight effects and Seiyaryu himself are pretty much straightforward on what they do, because like while it does seem that this card have a lot of text, it's pretty straightforward and very understandable. So this is an archetype that I do recommend for beginners or for people who just want to turn off their brain and have a good time, because this archetype is really not complex in its own effects. And this is an archetype that is very good for beginners, just like Marincess is in my opinion. They're really simple in what they do. You kind of like have the same straight things that you do over and over. And essentially, you resolve around this card, because the archetype itself resolves around this card because of its first effect, and that is pretty much when this card is normal or special summoned from the hand, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. Pretty much the entire idea. You're trying to bounce this as much as possible. This is pretty much the main theme of the archetype, and you're trying to bounce this as much as possible to essentially, like, you know, pop during your opponent's turn or during your own turn as well to essentially break a board. That's pretty much what he mostly does. And it's a pretty cool card, and I'm going to give this already 3 stars just because of the fact that it's like really good card to just like being resolved around. It also has some other nice effect, which is not being destroyed by battle and by a card effect from a dark monster, and the fact that like when you attack a monster at the start of the damage step, you are going to get the ability to banish that monster till the end phase, and then you can attack a second time in a row. But mostly what you care about is the fact that you want to rotate this as much as possible. And this is pretty much what the card is. He's the boss monster in the archetype. He does what it needs to do, and honestly the archetype really much resolve around him, and because of that, like I said, it deserves 3 stars. It's also just a great card, generally, in my opinion. It's very nice stats, very nice level, and if you can find it in like another archetype that you can special summon it, also just very nice. It's a little bit harder to special summon it from the hand in other archetypes, but I guess that's what pretty much Holy Knight were designed to do. But that's pretty much it for the boss monster itself. Now we can move on into the actual monsters of the archetype and actually understand how you're going to special summon him. Well, not with the first one, however, because the first one doesn't really help you to special summon him, but does help you to set up specifically for your play, and that is Holy Knight Rayel. All of these monsters of the Holy Knight themselves are level 4 fairy monsters, and they're also light. You don't really have an extra deck extra deck monsters or extra deck things that you want to, so I'm just going to say this in advance. Tide of the Brethren is a very good idea in this archetype, specifically with Barrier Statue of of the Heavens, and even Honest, like maybe play as like one of each, because they're just really fits for this archetype, because like I said, they're kind of like counter fairies, I guess. They're kind of like trying to play the level 4 Tide of the Brethren combo pretty much to play their game. But Rayel is pretty much a very interesting card. It's on normal summon. You're pretty much add a Holy Knight spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is really cool. And then when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard to essentially special summon any other Holy Knight monster except herself. And you can only use both of the effects once per turn, which is pretty nice. This card is very nice, and I'm going to give it 4 stars. However, I do have one problem with it, Specifically talking about the Ties of the Brethren things that I mentioned before, which is like counter fairies, because like I said, there's no extra deck, there's no things like that. It's pretty much going to be a Ties of the Brethren deck. But the problem with this one is one thing, is the fact is you can only activate its effect to search on normal summon, and I don't really understand why. I think that's a kind of like a stupid thing that they kind of like slapped on it. I think being normal or special summon should be in the clause, but I guess they wanted to kind of like make this archetype not broken or anything, although this archetype is not broken at all. I really don't understand that. It just really put Rayel in like a weird place, because if she had the effect of like normal or special summon, I would say she's a 5-star, because she carry up the entire archetype in terms of like consistency with one another card. But the point is like she's not that. She's only a normal summon, which is kind of a shame in my opinion. And I'm going to say this, you could maybe find a way to squish them together with counter fairies if you feel like it, but I don't think it's going to work, even though maybe some people of you think it's going to work, because Holy Knight maybe are light level 4 fairies just like counter fairies, but they have their own strategy, which is resolved around seiyaryu. But Rayel, like I mentioned, great card. It's just a shame that you cannot use her effect for search on special summon rather than on normal summon as well. The next card, however, is also pretty nice, but he is a card that essentially kind of like shows you what you're trying to do with the the archetype itself, because he's one of the 3 monsters that's essentially like doing the bounce stuff, and that is Holy Knight Astel. And Holy Knight Astel allowing you on his first effect as a quick effect, which is very nice, to tribute a light fairy you control, or should I say light monster you control, sorry, not light fairy, light monster you control, including himself, which is really good because you can dodge hand traps if you need to, and then essentially special summon him, or special summon seiyaryu out of your hand. It's allowing you to summon any level 7 light dragon from your hand, but let's be honest, the one that you want to summon is definitely going to be seiyaryu. So essentially, like, you put this on the field, you still just by himself, you got a 1 pop during your opponent's turn, which is pretty nice. In the graveyard itself, however, he's allowing you to essentially target a level 7 light dragon you control, boost him by 1,000 until the next end phase of your opponent, or should I say the end of your opponent's next turn, which is pretty nice. So this card is mostly just good on the field, and it's kind of like a very nice way to like dodge hand traps. You not always want to like tribute him specifically, because there may be other monsters that you want in the graveyard more. But the fact is, you have the option there, if you are afraid of hand trap, to essentially dodge that, which I really like. I'm going to give this one 3 stars just because of the fact that it's like, it's pretty much your main card that you want to try to like, special summon with ties or something else to kind of like just get it into field, special summon your seiyaryu. That's pretty much what you want to do. You want to try to get this to your field or any one of your activators, but this one is like pretty much the most useful one to just get the seiyaryu thing during your opponent's turn going, which I really like. Then we have Holy Knight Flamel, which I'm going to give 1 star initially just right now, because of the fact of 2 reasons. Or should I say 2 facts. First things first, he only can use 1 of his effects per turn, which is a big thing in archetypes like this, because archetypes like this are not really that powerful, and I don't really understand these limitations. The second thing is that his first effect of summoning seiyaryu is battle phase oriented. It can only allow you to summon seiyaryu by sending himself from the hand or field to the graveyard, or should I say like a level 7 light dragon. Like I said, mostly it's going to be seiyaryu himself, and then he special summon that from your hand, which is pretty nice. But it's like, do you really wait for the battle phase that much? I don't think you do. So this card is kind of like meh already. His graveyard effect is nice though, that is allowing you to banish this card from the graveyard to retrieve a level 7 light dragon from your graveyard, so that's really nice. But I do think it's only a one-off just because of the fact that its effect is mostly battle phase related, which like I mentioned is kind of meh. You don't really have any other platformer of choices, so that's why this one is going to be at least a one-off, just because of the fact that like you don't really have a whole lot of Holy Knights. But, it's not the worst thing in the world. I just think like the limitations for a hard once per turn and only once that turn is just really dumb in my opinion, because the rest of them don't really have that limitation, and I don't really understand why the worst one in effects to begin with also have this limitation. Really weird to me. But for the last Holy Knight monster revealed so far, and the one that got revealed in Lightning Overdrive, we have Holy Knight Ciel. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this one is a pretty nice one. It's allowing you to, while it's in your hand, to target return one Holy Knight or level 7 Light Dragon to your hand to essentially special summon him from the hand. Except, of course, himself. He cannot return himself to special summon himself. But yeah, it's really, really cool because you can return a seiyaryu to getting yourself another activator, or you can return a Rayel to your hand to essentially save her for a next turn to essentially normal summon her again to use her effect again, which I really, really like quite a bit. His other effect in the graveyard is also kind of nice, which is saying if you control no monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a level 7 Light Dragon out of your hand, which is very, very nice because it can be a nice activator for seiyaryu during your turn if you need to like bait stuff, or just generally just like if your opponent wipe your entire field, you have something to work with. I don't think this card is a hard free off from what I've seen, but it's still a very, very nice card, and I'm going to say this is a very, very nice 2-off, which I'm going to grant him 3 stars. So I think this card is really, really cool. I think it's just a nice addition. I do think Holy Knight need more than this card if they want to ever be like good, but this is a step in the right direction for what they're trying to do, which is like keep bouncing things, including their own monsters, to the hand, which is very, very nice. But that's pretty much does it for the Holy Knight monsters. We only have 5 monsters, including Radiant seiyaryu, which is not a whole lot. But now we can jump right into the spells, which we have 3 of them. And for the spells themselves, again, they're really going to be straightforward, just like the monsters, because the entire gimmick is summoning seiyaryu or search seiyaryu in the Holy Knights and just like special summoning them and just like bouncing seiyaryu over and over. That's pretty much the gimmick of the archetype. I mentioned that before, and that's pretty much what has also been done in Holy Knight Bellfire. And Bellfire is, again, pretty straightforward. It's a Rhoda for your Holy Knight and seiyaryu or level 7 Light Dragon, to be exact. Let's be honest, it's going to be seiyaryu. The point is that on top of being a Rhoda, if your opponent controls a dark monster, which is kind of like the idea of like, you know, they're fighting against darkness, I guess, is that you're able to summon a level 7 Light Dragon, or should I say, you could summon actually any Light Dragon. It doesn't say specifically level 7. It said you could summon 1 Light Dragon monster from your hand if your opponent controls a dark monster, which is pretty nice. Specifically, you are going to summon only seiyaryu, but the option to summon anything else is also really cool, giving it 5 stars. It's a Rhoda, it's a free off, it's a great card to just like starting your plays, and just because of the nice addition effect, I think this is a very, very nice card. Then we have the field spell of the archetype, which is Holy Night Sky. And I gotta say, this is not the best field spell I've seen because of one reason. Holy Knight don't need a field spell like this. I'm going to give this one 1 star right at the bat. I don't think this is worse as like an Emancipator field spell, which is an absolute trash, and I don't really understand why they printed a field spell like that in 2020, because this one does have a nice effect of giving you an additional normal summon for your Holy Knight or level 7 Light Dragons, that you can get an additional normal summon, although you're probably just only going to normal summon the Holy Knight, because if you have to normal summon the level 7 dragon, something went horribly wrong. But the point is, it's a very, very nice effect for that. And then on top of that, if you pretty much like, you know, special summon a level 7 Light Dragon during your turn, which is the big deal here. If it was during either turn, it might be better. But during your turn, you get to draw a card, which is nice, but it's not really the best thing in the world. So Holy Night Sky is just a very cool, I guess, field spell. But the problem is, it just doesn't do enough. It's definitely better than the one from Emancipator, and I might also even argue the, what are their name again? Evil Twins, whatever they are, or like Live Twins field spell. But it's like, it just doesn't do enough for the archetype itself, because the archetype itself doesn't really care about the additional normal summon. They mostly would care about something else. Like if in the future we're going to get an additional really good normal summon like Rayel, that you want to like normal summon Rayel, search it, then normal summon that one with the field spell, then I would say, oh my god, this is amazing. But we don't really have that yet. So I'm going to say this one is still 1 star because it's at bare maximum a one-off. But it's still a very, very nice card regardless. Then we have the last spell, which is Holy Knight Nativity. This one is basically, during your main phase, you can reveal a Light Fairy, any of them, and then pretty much return to the deck and then search a level 7 Light Dragon from your deck to your hand. So it's basically allowing you to put cards that you don't want in your hand back into your deck, or essentially just get seiyaryu really, really easily to your hand, giving you an additional way to search it. that you don't have to burn your Bellfire on, searching seiyaryu specifically. So I really like this card quite a bit. But on top of that, it's also allowing you to have, when your opponent monster, or should I say, if your opponent activate a card or effect, you get to special summon a level 7 light dragon from your hand. So it can also be activated during your opponent's turn. It's kind of like working the same way of Dark Magical Circle. So this one is very, very nice, and I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Very straightforward, very, very nice, and I like this card quite a bit. It's just a nice additional searcher. It's not as good as Bellfire, but it does giving you an additional searching capability, and the fact that it's also allowing you to activate during your opponent's turn to start like doing your things. Even if you just open up with this, it's just really, really nice, and I like this card quite a bit. That's it for the spells, and then we only have 2 traps. And for the traps, we have Holy Night Advent, which basically is a continuous trap which allowing you to use one of the following 2 effects, and it's either special summoning a level 7 light dragon from your hand, or bouncing a level 7 light dragon to your hand. It's kind of like either you special summon the seiyaryu, or just bounce the seiyaryu from your field to your hand so it can be used again. Really, really nice card, and pretty much a 3-off, because it's like a card that, like, again, it's a nice activator, just like the Nativity, or whatever that's called. It's just really, really nice in that regard, and a very, very good card overall for the archetype itself. And then for the last card, we have Holy Night Blast. And Holy Night Blast is pretty much a better version for the secondary effect of, like, bouncing a card back for Advent, but it doesn't giving you the option to do anything else. So it's like, it just specifically only can activate when your opponent card or effect is activated. Pretty much you can get to return a level 7 light dragon to your hand, and then negate the effect and destroy that card, which is pretty nice. But like, it's not always happening that you're able to activate this in the way that you want to, so it's kind of like a nice negation effect. But I really wish it was a counter trap, because if it was a counter trap, I would say like this card is like pretty powerful. But as it stands right now, it's only 2 stars. You do want to run this as a one-off, because I think it's just a nice bounce effect back to your hand, because you don't really have enough of those. But I don't think it's like absolutely insane, just like Advent, because Advent letting you to choose the options. It doesn't really giving you a negate, but the point is, Advent, you can use it at any time. This one specifically, you need to wait for the situation itself to represent itself, and then use this effect to bounce to your hand. Which is, again, like I said, it's still very nice as another bouncer, but I don't think it's as nice as Advent. But that's pretty much does it for the entire cards for the archetype, all 10 cards of them. And I'm going to say this. Holy Knight, in my opinion, is a 2-star archetype, not because of the fact that, like, the archetype is terrible, it's because of the fact that, like, this archetype is not really the most playable thing in the world, and it's resolved around only 1 monster. And unfortunately, they don't really have enough support to be, like, really good. If we had, like, an additional 1 or 2 monsters that are really good, and then an additional 1 or 2 spells or traps that are very good, then I would say, cool, this archetype maybe could be a 3 or maybe even 4 stars if we get, like, really broken cards. But for now, we're still missing some cards of support to essentially play this card, like, this archetype correctly. I still think the Tides of the Brethren thing could work, but I don't think it's an absolutely amazing thing, because, like, yeah, sometimes you don't really open up with ties, or your hand is not the best. But yeah, I still think it's a very fun archetype, and very nice to teach new players. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And for the next deck choice, or should I say the next archetype choice, I'm not going to put up the the next choices, because the next one should be Security Force. If not, I will put something else. But yeah, Security Force should be up next, because as I mentioned at the start, these two archetypes tied. So that's pretty much it for the video. So I hope you enjoyed it and essentially learned a little bit how to play Holy Knight and all the way that I interact with each other and what do I think over all of them. So if you enjoy the content and you want to see more things like that, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.